This college football playoff picks, Heisman Trophy, and Phil Steele edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code SGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Hey folks, this is Bud Foster. You're listening to SGPN. Let's let it ride. Go Hokies, man.
He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Kramer?
Dog. Oh boy, we're here.
We're here
Proudly
launching another
Together.
season of college football on the Sports Gambling Podcast. Joining us to talk all thing college football this college football season from the College Football Experience, Colby Dant, aka Pick Dundee. What's happening, Colby?
Oh, it's bad. The worst time of year and the best time of year, right? Because you're every night you're waking up and you're just in the middle of the night. You're saying, "Oh, we're still 24 hours from the game." Because look, I'm super enthusiastic in like March, April, May, June, but then you're like, I've answered these questions about Ohio State for months. I've answered these questions about so you're just like, let's get the game started. I know I'm going to be right about this stuff, and you're going to be wrong, Kramer. All right. Vandy in the points, Sean. Let's go.
Wow. Already coming after me. Have you not? We're already securing some top prospects for next year. Saw a 4-star receiver just inked.
Wow, Ryan's already looking to next year with the Virginia Tech Hokies.
Just so laser focused right now. Just so laser focused. Remember when Virginia Tech restarted sport by jumping around to Metallica?
I don't remember that.
What do you mean?
I really don't recall that. Ryan likes to take credit for getting us out of the pandemic via.
Most people who watch college football know exactly what moment we're talking.
Oh, come on.
Colby knows what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about.
I mean, come on. It never should have went away. What are we doing here?
We needed a brave turkey to fix sport and kill the pandemic.
We got a lot to get to. First off, this is the first time in the history of the Sports Gambling Podcast where we actually get to fill out a real college football bracket, an actual bracket
for the FBS. We did the FCS in the spring.
This reminds me of when we did that pandemic video game tournament. We had a bracket. Remember that?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was fun.
So we got that to look forward to. We also got we're going to announce some Heisman picks as well. Besides the team that we have, the 12 seeds, and we're going to walk you through the seeds. We got that plus Phil Steele hopping on, doing a guest spot, doing an interview. Always great to check in with Phil Steele. You get to witness Colby's look of disgust when Phil Steele says he was always a 4-team playoff guy. And Colby's just like, all right.
Phil Steele, noted Notre Dame fan. I feel like that's a Notre Dame answer. And I love Phil. I love Phil.
Yes,
but
that was disgusting.
Notre Dame answer.
All right, so we got that to look forward to. But before we even get to that, we do have a bonus edition of Real Men of Degens.
SGPN presents Real Men of Degens.
Real men of Degens.
We salute you.
Goster Cherilus, 40-year-old, former NFL player, former first-round pick of the Detroit Lions, also played for the Colts and the Bucks, was arrested early Sunday on a Delta airline flight, which had to return to Logan International Airport. Why? Well, apparently, old Ghoster was getting a little intoxicated, allegedly argued with the flight crew, and then went over and urinated on an elderly passenger. The stream continuous for over 20 seconds, according to a witness. He then hit another passenger and took the passenger's seat before passing out.
Must have been a big Tom Hanks fan. Feels like a little bit of a League of Our Own. You know? Long piss followed with some physical violence.
Oh man, it was just.
That's a long time to piss, let alone piss on someone.
He issued an apology on Instagram on Monday saying he, quote, took a sleeping medication that I don't normally use, which resulted in behavior that is not representative of my character.
First of all,
didn't Kevin Spacey say the same thing?
Yep. But that was a dick in the mouth. Allegedly.
Also, this is he's going to Ireland. Like you're flying from Boston to Ireland.
I've done that. I've done that exact flight.
Yeah, shouldn't that? I feel like that's like international waters. You're not allowed to pee on the elderly. What happened? I mean, you're also like, are you worried you're not going to be able to get drunk in Ireland? You got to get to it too early.
And what is the again with these sleeping pills, people?
Yeah,
come on. Like just man up. You got drunk. You lost control. Don't blame it on Ambien.
The go-to, yes.
Oh, I took a. You didn't take a. Maybe it was an edible. I mean, don't call it a sleeping pill.
Well, yeah. I mean,
wait. If it was sleeping pills, why are we doing nothing to get rid of these horrible narcotic sleeping pills?
That is true.
It seems quite dangerous. I mean, everyone just blames. It's like a porn addiction. It's like, sorry, got a porn addiction. I'm gonna go hit rehab for a month. Everything's cool, right? What?
Yeah, I didn't cheat on my wife. I was a victim of a disease. I'm a diseased animal.
I'm addicted to sex. I can't help it.
Yeah, I mean, Ambien. There are some crazy stuff with Ambien. I still don't know how you can get it. I mean, maybe you need a prescription, but essentially over the counter, you can get it pretty easily. But yeah, it is. It's crazy that.
Did they even have sleeping pills when we were kids?
I don't recall.
I
think you had to be a celebrity because you always heard like Anna Nicole Smith. Oh, that's a great Hollywood story. You know how like you go into like a Hollywood out here in LA or like any like little small business in LA, their move is they'll put like celebrity headshots. Like, oh, you go into the dry cleaners. Oh wait, Tim Allen also goes to this dry cleaner. So they'll have an autographed Tim Allen. I went.
How much free dry cleaning you get for that photo?
Jay Leno has a headshot everywhere, so he must just be. That's why he doesn't have to spend any of his Tonight Show money. He's just eating for free,
just slinging
all across the town.
Probably got his cars parked at the place too. Fucking asshole. Right?
I went to a pharmacy in Hollywood, and behind the counter, this was after she had died from a pill overdose. At a pharmacy, they had an Anna Nicole Smith autographed headshot. Like, hey, maybe you take it down. Like Matthew McConaughey, when he passes out and dies from ketamine, maybe you take his autographed headshot behind the pharmacy down. Like it's in poor taste to leave the headshot up.
I mean, yeah, you act like someone would know that. That's the problem. They're just who's that guy?
All right, we're gonna get to the Phil Steele interview. Before we do that,
well, last thing.
Yes,
someone else clearly caught some of the piss shrapnel.
I
mean, we didn't even like how.
Yeah, like what is the? I mean, you know, in SeaWorld, there's the splash zone. I can only imagine, and he is a big guy.
Right.
I mean,
you think he took his dick all the way out?
I don't know how else do you. Yes, of course. They were like trying to take him down, and then he punched the guy, and then took his seat.
You think something weird sexual was going on, and then all of a sudden he was too drunk and started pissing everywhere?
How many people thought he was like a terrorist for a second?
Oh, I mean, people get very quick to have some confirmation bias nowadays when something happens in front of them. That's something I've noticed personally. So I'd imagine a lot of people were like, see, what's the old Chappelle joke? Just like the encyclopedia said.
It's Eric in the YouTube chat saying, Colby, maybe you have a thought here. What's your guys' thoughts on the rumors that there could be a secondary playoff tourney for teams that don't make the college football playoff?
Holy shit. Is that
essentially the NIT?
Yeah, great.
Yes and no though. As long as it doesn't remove the auto bid, I just don't want them to
What do you mean?
Because
like put the group of five in a separate tournament.
Well, that's the fear because the auto bid for the group of five is only for 2 years.
Yeah,
that contract runs out for 2026. It changes.
So they're only wait, that part of the playoff is only for 2 years.
That is that's the only thing in the contract. Now they said they have an agreement, but we've seen this. Remember the alliance?
A handshake.
Remember the alliance?
Handshake. The alliance. One of the greatest conferences.
These idiots at the top, continue to think the best way to do it is have the biggest thing, and have the more of their teams in the thing. They don't understand that the whole appeal, the reason why everyone likes it, is because everyone can get into it. Yeah. It is truly an amazing display of. Granted, they clearly have advanced some elements of the game, but these people running things right now clearly they're not in touch with fans.
But to answer the actual question, like, I would just rather see it all as one. Like,
no, that's a cop.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's a secondary tournament, just like in basketball, is great.
But have you given it thought? Because here's the difference: in basketball, you're not affected by the calendar.
What do you mean?
I'm saying all these players are going to transfer before the playoff games even happen.
Well, I think you're speaking about a secondary problem, which is college football has to grow up and like every other adult sports league that allows players to transfer, you have to organize it a little. Coaches are leaving head coaching jobs for anything else because of this nonsense. So I have to imagine like who's in charge, the people that are in charge that are there constantly, not just rolling through for 3 years, are the administrators and the coaches. How are they not figuring out how to have?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, I would need to know, and also coaches would leave. I don't know how you fix that.
So I think
you can only have one playoff.
Well, no, I think you can absolutely have another one where there's cash prize.
You just got to put it in the contract that you have to finish. You have to finish the season. You have to finish the season. Put it in their NIL deal.
No, you're missing the point. You just say, "Oh, well, the transfer portal's not until here."
Yeah, but that's. I mean,
and it's cash.
But
like,
I can't just okay that then, knowing that they're not going to have that organized.
No, but think about it. What would a postseason tournament be for? I mean, I guess the exposure. So now that exposure doesn't matter, it's about money, and so just pay them. Hey, kids, you want to play for a check? That's what you're doing.
My
anyway.
problem is this: let's say they're paying. You know, let's say you're getting Alabama might come in and say, or take Dylan Gabriel, who was in the AAC for like 5 years playing quarterback in the AAC. Oklahoma came in and grabbed him. Oklahoma has fuck you money, especially with this new SEC deal, right? So they could just say, we want to get you focused on playing ball here right now. And they're going to be able to outpay whatever TV company is going to be able to do. Yeah,
and I'm just saying that will evolve over a couple seasons and it will work out to just there's more football. Guess what the bowl season is? It grew over time because people like watching football. And so as long as there's not conflict on when the game's on, it will work. That's honestly all it is.
Well, we want more football, and I've always thought the bowl season was stupid. Have a playoff. You know what I mean? Much like our friend Mike Leach said,
I also
a large
think
playoff.
A lot like if the right person comes in, like tell the story of college basketball without saying that the NIT was the big tournament first.
Yeah,
I mean, someone came with a bigger bag, and now we have March Madness as it sits with the NCAA tournament. I mean that's really all it was. So I think football will be fine. To your point, there's going to be a lot of shitty postseason games until they can figure out the right monetary amount. So.
Yeah, I just say one big playoff. Let them duke it out.
I agree, but I think they're too dumb to figure that out.
Yeah, they just it's 2024 and they just figured out a 12-team playoff. We just got a fucking bracket in 2024.
Well, and the 12-team playoff was based on 5 major conferences, and there's only 4.
Exactly. So what's the best? What's the best thing for evolution and is competition? So if someone else comes in with a better structure, they'll just steal it.
All right. New quick news segment here. It's called Science Sean because I'm in the lab. That's right. Wow. Cooking up a little pick here thanks to Rhythm.
I don't even have my safety glasses on.
Ryan, we got to get a lab coat, maybe some goggles.
Goggles at minimum, please.
Perhaps it is an excuse to order a Bunsen burner, but I fired up the old Rhythm AI and I went you don't need to show the graphic here. I went defense heavy and I went running game heavy. So Colby, you're going to like the model I built. And Colby is a guy who hates offense, hates the passing game. You can build a Colby style football and just put the slider on passing and offense all the way down. I'm sure it'll be very good.
I happen to love the air raid. It's just when every goddamn team's running it, it is not cool anymore.
So again, you can create your own Colby algorithm, which maybe we should fire up that as well. So far, I've been playing around with this, and a Rhythm also likes it. Their model, but it matches my model, which has Sam Houston only catching 3.2 points to get the cover. But in fact, the line right now is Sam Houston 10.5 against Rice.
I see eye to eye with you. Sam Houston's defense, I think, gonna give Rice more than they bargained for.
See,
yeah.
We are lockstep. You should get your own model. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Free 7-day trial. Again, building your own model is way more fun than I thought. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And of course, we're also brought to you by Game Time. College football is here. You just stumble out of bed on a Saturday morning. You want to go to a game. What better way to do it than by firing up the Game Time app using the promo code SGPN? Get you $20 off. Because it is your go-to app for last-minute tickets. Maybe you're out hanging out in the studio in Eagle Rock, and you're like, "Oh man, no one is at this UCLA game. I can get a ticket for $5. Fire up the Game Time app, promo code SGPN, and you get $20 off your first order. GameTime.co, promo code SGPN. Joining us on the line, the one, the only, the college football guru himself, Phil Steele. Phil, thanks for calling on. Appreciate it. And the countdown to kickoff is on. How excited are you for the first college football season with a real playoff?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I've always been a 14 playoff guy, but after last year when they left Georgia out of the playoff and Florida State out of the playoff, and frankly, I feel if Georgia was in the playoff last year, they probably would have won it all. Hey, what the heck? Let's go to a 12 team. And the one thing I've noticed is that the fan bases and the coaches in the group of five are all very excited. I mean, you go to talk to anybody in the Sun Belt, they have hopes of getting to the playoff. Anybody in the group or in the Mountain West or in the American Conference, they all have hopes of getting to the playoff this year, and they're legitimate because somebody's going to get in there.
I mean, it certainly is exciting as like you mentioned, a fan of a team that doesn't traditionally have access. We've heard the case against, but it does seem like the access will just drum up more excitement later into the season for all of these programs, all of these conferences, including a team like my Virginia Tech Hokies. Just going to hijack the interview. We know they are returning a ton of production. Kyron Drones and the offense kind of looked good towards the end of the season. How bullish are you on my Hokies and Coach Pry?
Yeah, I think they're a legitimate ACC title contender, and frankly, I think the ACC probably you need to win the ACC to make the playoff. I could see a scenario where it's one ACC team, one Big 12 team, and 4 or 5 SEC teams, 3 or 4 Big 10 teams, the group of 5 and Notre Dame. But Virginia Tech has an opportunity. You look at the quarterback, as you mentioned, they were much better offensively once Kyron Drones took over at QB. They've got Tootin back at running back, plus Malachi Thomas. Offensive line's a veteran group. And going over the team every year with Coach Pry, he has brought back a whole bunch of the philosophies that they had when he was there under their outstanding defense coordinator, Bud Foster. And so they've got 10 starters back on defense, 11 on offense. When I look at the schedule, I do have an underdog at Miami of Florida on September 27th. Home against Clemson, I've got them a 3-point dog. But if they win one of those games, odds are they're in the ACC title game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to imagine it's a good time to sit down with Coach Pry. He does seem like one of the more genuine college football coaches out there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think he's doing a really good job building this team. It's his third year. That's generally when coaches hit their stride is the third year. And like I said, Bud Foster comes to practices all the time, and he's a big Bud Foster for that. You know how Bud Foster was there as the defensive coordinator. And they're also outstanding on special teams, which is another thing that Virginia Tech's famous for. They're number 6 in my special teams rankings this year. You take that defense, that special teams, and you pair it with Kyron Drones, and you've got yourself a heck of a team.
It is nice to see a coach embracing the past. All right, that concludes the Virginia Tech portion of the interview.
One of the things while we're on Virginia Tech that I find interesting is that the tiebreaker scenario, like when with these gigantic conferences, I have a harder time forecasting, how if they might have the same record as NC State or they might have the same record as Clemson, and these tiebreaker scenarios can change as we've seen historically in the middle of the season. So how hard has that been for handicapping, essentially for projecting your championship games? Because in each conference, I feel like it's much harder because you're looking for the better schedule, not necessarily the better team.
Yeah, 30 years of the magazine business now and it's the first time I've had to forecast a 16, 17, or 18 team conference. They used to have divisions, used to be a lot easier. And now I pick a lot of ties and people are like, well, you're picking too many ties. It's like you realize that there are only 8 different scenarios that you can finish at. So there's going to be at least 8 ties in the 16 team league, 9 ties in the 17 team league. And I've got a 3-way tie at the top for the ACC this year.
Yeah, I mean, ACC, we talk about the tie situation, maybe some surprise teams. I keep looking at Syracuse and their schedule. I mean, if they can hit the ground running with their new quarterback, Kyle McCord, they have a very favorable schedule, and their last home game against Miami, maybe that is for a chance to get into the ACC championship. Where are you at with the Syracuse college football program?
Yeah, I'm not quite as bullish on Syracuse. It is a first-year head coach,
sure.
And generally they have to, the players have to learn a new system, both offensively and defensively. The coaches have to learn the new players. Now they should hit the ground running. I mean, they start off with Ohio, they get Georgia Tech at home, Stanford at home, Holy Cross at home, UNLV on the road. They could easily be 5-0, but they do have to play NC State on the road. I think Pitt's going to be a lot tougher this year, and they play them on a Thursday. They host Virginia Tech. BT will travel well there. It's a game where I've got Virginia Tech favored. Boston College is a bowl team, a bowl caliber team on the road. Cal's a bowl caliber team on the road, and Miami at home is another tough one. I see them getting to a bowl game, but I don't have them quite as the ACC contender. But it is a nice schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I saw at Circa they were hanging 100 to 1 for them to win the ACC. Wow. I'm like, I gotta throw a couple bucks on that.
Pizza bet.
Yeah. I like to play roulette because it's 35 to 1. You throw $10 on it and you get yourself $350. So I like long shots like that.
You're speaking my language.
This is why we like Phil Steele. He's not afraid to throw down some long shots, some roulette bets. Phil, you always do my favorite part of the magazine. Again, for talking about long shot, finding value when it comes to betting, you do a very good job historically, even last year, especially of identifying the surprise teams, some teams that maybe, quote unquote, come out of nowhere or just surprise people. Who is a fun team that you like to surprise the voters and college football fans this year?
Yeah, and for a surprise team, you have to be a non-top 10 team. So one of those non-top 10 teams is a team I think will definitely make the playoff this year, and that's Utah. And when you look at Utah last year, first of all, they were playing in the Pac-12. And while the Pac-12 has not been on par with the SEC and the Big Ten, they were last year. Last year is probably the best the Pac-12 had been in the last 10 to 15 years. And they had to play 4 of the big teams in the Pac-12, all ranked, all on the road: Oregon State, USC, Washington, and Arizona. They also lost their backup quarterback, Brandon Rose, in August. Sort of nondescript injury, right? Well, then Cam Rising doesn't play. So now you're down to your 3rd, 4th, 5th string quarterback for even one game, and teams could stack the line against them, and that really hurt them. That's why they lost 5 games. But this is a team that won the Pac-12 title 2 straight years. They're strong at the line of scrimmage. Every time you talk to Coach Whittingham, he'll tell you, hey, I think our offensive and defensive line combo is among the best in the country, and I agree. They've got Cam Rising back, and if Rising gets hurt, they got Brandon Rose back, but they also bring in Sam Hurd, who is my number 3 rated quarterback out of high school, originally signed at Washington, had a really good year at Cal Poly last year. They've got probably their best receiving core, including Brant Keithy, who missed last year with injury as well. Their outstanding tight end, and the defense is solid, as is the special teams. And then you look at the schedule. They've got one tough road game. It's at Oklahoma State. Other than that, they get all the other tough teams at home in Rice-Eccles Stadium, and they've only lost 2 games in Rice-Eccles Stadium in the last 5 years. So I've got Utah at 11-1 or possibly 12-0, winning the Big 12 and making the playoff this year. And I think once they make the playoff, we saw them in the Rose Bowl in both 21 and 22 with the chance to beat Ohio State and Penn State in the number 7, number 9 teams until Cam Rising got injured. I think they have that opportunity to compete if they can keep Rising healthy.
Yeah, I mean Utah obviously one of the toughest places to go play, get a win, and then if they do make the playoffs, if they have a home college football playoff game, that's going to be an electric environment, and that they have a chance to knock off a pretty big program if they're at home, especially end of the season with the elevation. Like they're going to be a tough out at home anytime, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
also
absolutely.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation with some of the listeners, and they're like, "How do I get down on Utah? What's the best way to play?" And it's like, maybe look to early in the season against those new road trip to Utah for some of these Big 12 schools. I know they have Baylor early, Arizona early, so that's not a new team, but yeah, it does seem like Utah could come out and just start dominating.
You saw last year.
And I think the over and win total is only 9.5 on them.
Yeah,
that does seem low. I think we were both on the higher or the over there, Sean.
I think my favorite game last season was that USC game where they're on their 4th string quarterback that was a pig farmer, and Whittingham just caused quarterback power about 20 times, and USC just did not want that contact.
No,
Phil, you just said earlier, and when we just came on the show that you had Notre Dame in the playoffs. They just lost their left tackle for the season. And they had a couple tackles drafted. How much do injuries play a role? Are you still projecting them to? I know the schedule isn't that difficult for Notre Dame this year, but how much do injuries play a role? And B, do you still have Notre Dame or say Texas with both these running backs out for the year making the playoffs?
Yeah, keep in mind that the left tackle they lost was not a starter last year. He only redshirted, so he would have been a redshirt freshman. He is a guy that they're counting on as a future NFL guy, but they've got Sullivan Absher could step in there. Tosh Baker could step in there. Baker was my number 13 rated offensive lineman out of high school. He's got 4 starts under his belt. Sullivan Absher is a guy that was my number 23 rated offensive lineman out of high school. So they've got talent there. I love Notre Dame's schedule. In fact, the toughest game of the season for the Irish, probably game 1. College Station at Texas A&M. I rate that one a toss-up. The rest of the games I've got them favored. That includes at USC and home against Florida State. So I think they've got the talent and the schedule to get to 11-1 or even 12-0 this year. Worst case scenario, I think a 10-2 Notre Dame team still makes the playoff.
Oh, a home game because they can't get the auto bid. They would, so you'd probably get a home game there at the Golden Dome. That would be absolutely.
It does seem
incredible.
like the big conferences overlooked the idea of just giving Notre Dame a home game every year.
They're going to be jealous once they realize, hey, we could have had home playoff games. Obviously, a bunch of teams switching around when it comes to conference realignment. As we learned, a media day. UCLA is located in Los Angeles. Deshaun Foster, their head coach, certainly has his work cut out for him. I don't know how much of a roster Chip Kelly left for him, but to me, I mean, this UCLA schedule is insane. Just the travel alone, the fact that you have to go at Hawaii and then at Rutgers, it is just a gauntlet of travel alone, let alone some of the teams you have to face going into Baton Rouge as well. Like really have the work cut out for them. How do you think UCLA, USC are going to adapt to football in the Big Ten?
I think they're going to adapt differently the first year. Deshaun Foster's a first-year head coach. He's got to learn the players. They lost a lot when, to the portal. And you also take a look at the fact that last year, UCLA actually played one of the easiest schedules in the Pac-12. Now they're playing one of the toughest schedules in the Big Ten. I've got them a dog at LSU, or home to Oregon, at Penn State, at Rutgers, at Nebraska, at Iowa, home against Iowa, at Washington, even against USC. I think it's a learning year for UCLA in their first year. I do not see them getting to a bowl game. They have a much tougher schedule than they had last year. Now for USC, they lose Caleb Williams, and you think, well, they're going to take a step back, right? But I actually like Miller Moss. I like the 6 touchdown passes he had in the bowl game, but I also like the fact they've got a vastly improved defense this year. They bring in Danton Lynn from UCLA, who we just talked about, and he did wonders with UCLA. It took him from allowing 29 points per game down to 18 last year. Now he goes to USC, and I think he can have the same type of impact there. You know that Lincoln Riley is going to have a potent offense, and he's got Miller Moss there, and plus a solid offensive line. I don't put USC as one of the title contenders in the Big Ten, but it wouldn't surprise me if they top last year's 8-win total.
And while we're in the Big Ten, Michigan obviously losing Harbaugh, JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum. What do you think their chances are of maintaining the success they've had in the Big Ten.
There's going to be a drop off. I did a blog on philsteele.com a couple of weeks ago, which talked about the experience thing, and you guys should check that out if you get the chance. But they were number 7 on my experience chart last year, and part of the reason that they won the national title, Washington was also very high up there. This year they're number 117 on the experience chart, so they take a big step back in terms of experience overall. Now, I love their defense. You look at that defensive front; it's one of the best in the country. You're talking about Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Derek Moore, Josiah Stewart up front. All those guys are going to be drafted in the NFL next year. Will Johnson's a draft pick at cornerback. Their defense is loaded. The special teams, I rate number 5 in the country. They've got 2 question marks. Number 1 is quarterback. That's not a good place to have a question mark. Will it be Alex Orji, Davis Warren, Jack Tuttle? The other one's the offensive line. They lose all 5 starters from the offensive line, which is going to be tough to replace. They've got talented guys there, but there's going to be a step back. Now, the good thing for them is actually their schedule. I know the schedule's tough in some spots. They play Texas week 2. I've got them a 7-point dog. Texas is a much more experienced team, and I think they go in the big house and win that. I've got them a 2-touchdown underdog at Ohio State. But the Oregon game is the key to Michigan's season. I think if they can beat Oregon at home, I've got that one a toss-up. Then they've got a shot at going 10-2 because I do have them favored in all the rest of their games. The other road trips, Washington, Illinois, Indiana, all winnable. So I think if Michigan beats Oregon November 2nd, they can possibly make the playoff. If they lose to Oregon November 2nd, I think they missed the playoff this year, despite the fact they're the reigning national champs.
And we just saw the NCAA come down on Michigan and Harbaugh. And one of the fascinating things I saw in the story was that Jim Harbaugh ate a cheeseburger for breakfast. Where are you at with cheeseburger for the breakfast meal, Phil? I'm a seafood eater, so if I see food, I eat it. There we go. Phil,
I would eat a hamburger for breakfast. Sure.
Let's go.
You get
right?
protein, carbs, loaded up for the day. I mean, the way
just throw an egg on there. It's a breakfast burger.
I mean, I'm skeptical, but you see the enthusiasm with Jim Harbaugh attacks the day, and just all his press conferences so far we've seen with the Chargers. Like the guy has a ton of energy, so maybe there's something to the sensible burger for breakfast.
It's protein, baby.
Phil, I like your. We were talking roulette earlier. Your roulette chip team was UNC this year. Why do you think UNC has a shot of coming in? Maybe there is a long shot.
Yeah, and it would have to be a real long shot to make it as my roulette play. But when you look at North Carolina, there's a couple things I like about this team. The first thing is the schedule. They open up at Minnesota. If they pick up a win there, they get Charlotte at home, NC Central, James Madison, at Duke. Duke is down this year. Host Pitt and host Georgia Tech. There's a possibility this team opens up 7-0. Now everybody's down on them because they lose Drake May, but keep in mind, 2 years ago, Drake May threw for 38 touchdown passes. Last year, Drake May only threw for 24 touchdowns. I think if Max Johnson or Connor Harrell wins a job, I'm going with Max Johnson. I think they topped last year's 24 touchdown passes. They've got Amarian Hampton, a running back. They got Nate McCullum at wide receiver. The defensive line, every year I talk to Mac Brown, he says, boy, they're pretty. They just got to play that way. I think this year they finally do that. They've got Rucker up there at the defensive end spot. Evans, they're going to be pretty good up front on the defense. You look at the secondary, they've got Lane at safety and Huzzy at cornerback. I think they're going to have a talented defense. Everybody's down on them because they lost May, but like I said, I think this year's quarterback could top May's stats from last year. A dream schedule where they build confidence weekly. That means I actually only have them a true underdog in one game this year. I've got 3 toss-up games on the schedule: Minnesota at BC and home against NC State. But if they're playing to their potential, I think they could actually slip in there.
If you believe the rumors, Joe Milton's beating out Drake May in New England camp right now, so maybe not that much to replace.
And I love that because I just dropped the my ACC lock. One of them as the Tar Heels on the over. And let's stay in the state of North Carolina with a real team in North Carolina. All right, wow. The East Carolina Pirates, my East Carolina Pirates. You have them as the most improved team in the nation at number 1 in your magazine. I look at our schedule and I think we have a shot at getting to the AAC championship, which means like we started at the beginning of the episode saying, I can see a path now to the playoffs. Am I insane, Phil?
No, not at all. That's why I got them as my number one most improved team. You know, last year they were extremely inexperienced, and I had expected big things out of Mason Garcia, and just didn't happen. And now this year they bring in Jake Garcia and Caden Hauser. I think they're much improved at the quarterback spot. I mean, last year's quarterbacks had 7 touchdown passes, 14 interceptions. You can't have that type of ratio. They got the solid backfield led by Harris at running back. The offensive line looks good, and the defense is going to be much improved. Mike Houston knows defense. He's got his best defensive line he's had since he's been there. And then, as you touched on, the schedule gets so much easier this year as opposed to having a gauntlet like they did at times last year, leading off with Michigan in the opener, which beat them up a little bit. The only games I've got them an underdog, and it's a slight underdog, is at Liberty and home to UTSA. I've got the North Texas game on the road at Pick'em. If they were to, let's say they beat UTSA at home, and we know how tough East Carolina could be at home, dating all the way back to when Ruffin McNeil was the head coach. Yeah, this team definitely has a shot at winning the American Conference and possibly even making the playoff. What's their odds of making the playoff this year?
Oh, you're talking Colby's language
yes,
now. He's confirmation bias through the roof. I mean, just maybe I'll take that bet from you, Colby. 200 to 1.
Look, I know you're excited about your Hokies, but why do that? I know you guys took us off the schedule, but ECU is the play here.
I'm happy for you as an ECU Pirate fan. I am happy for you. It's a big number though.
Yeah, it's. The site I'm checking at doesn't have them listed.
They're not even offering.
No, I got
scared.
it. I'm pulling it up here.
Okay.
It is right now. It will be. Where is this?
I'm talking about just to make the playoff, not win the national title.
Yeah.
100 to 1.
Yeah, 100 to 1.
All
Yeah.
right,
There you go. You got. I mean, that's
worth a roulette chip. Isn't it?
Yeah, that's 3. That's hitting 3 roulette spins in a
Phil,
row.
if we ever cross paths in Vegas, I'm the guy who like sneaks off to the roulette wheel when things aren't going good to see if I can mix up my luck with a big bet on a couple numbers. We're gonna have to throw the ball around a little bit, make some long shot bets together.
There's a couple times where Ryan will walk over to a roulette table, not place a bet, and say, "Oh, I would have bet on 23," and then 23 hits. He goes, "This is a nightmare scenario."
Phil knows what I'm talking about.
Phil,
yeah, that would be horrific.
As a gambler, it obviously stinks losing money, but almost worse is not betting something that ends up winning. The fear of missing out is worse than actually losing.
Yeah, I guess I'm betting on ECU to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. Now that we, well, it's a win-win because if they do make the playoffs, we're never going to hear the end of it with Colby Kramer. So we may as well make a couple bucks on ECU to make the playoffs as well. One team that we've been high on overall, they're 6-1, 7-1 to make the college football playoff. Would love your thoughts on Iowa this year and what their chances are to make the playoff.
It's my favorite over/under bet of the season is over in the Iowa win total because it was 7.5. It's got to be higher than that by now, isn't it?
I think it's 8 now.
Yeah, I mean it would have to. When I look at Iowa, here's what I see. You look at a linebacking core: Nick Jackson, Jay Higgins, and then of course the Leo Sebastian Castro. It's my number 1 linebacking core in the country. My number 5 DBs, and the defensive line's number 13. This is one of the best defenses in the country. Now we knew that from last year. They lose their punter, but their special teams are still top 10. In fact, when I talked to Coach Ferentz going over the team with them, he said that their new punter, Rice Degens, is a guy that's actually more American football ready than was their superstar that just left them. Then you take a look at I'm talking of course of Torrey Taylor, and then offensively last year Cade McNamara not 100% coming into the year, and then out for the year. His top 2 weapons both out for the year, both tight ends prior to Big Ten play, and the offensive line underperformed a little bit. This year the offensive line's got all 5 starters back. They could be as good as the 2020 unit, which put up 31 points per game. The receiving core is upgraded. Caleb Brown emerged late in the year last year. He's an Ohio State transfer, my number 7 rated quarterback or wide receiver out of high school. They've got LaShawn Williams and Caleb Johnson back. And if McNamara goes down, they're not going to a guy that can't complete a forward pass. They're going to Brendan Sullivan of Northwestern. So teams can't stack the box on them, like I said about Utah. And then you look at the schedule. All right, I've got them an underdog against Ohio State on the road. Give me another game they're an underdog in this year.
Yeah, no, I mean we kind of came to the same conclusion.
People just hate the style of play they play, and it's like
that's
not
boring. It's not fantasy football friendly or whatever, but it's winning football, and I mean they continue to be an underrated team and program. It feels like year after year.
And like, what are the chances that they have this good season in the Big Ten, and maybe they don't even have to play in the championship game, but they have enough wins in the Big Ten to get in the playoff. Their playoff price being 6-7-1 is crazy.
I agree. I think they go 11-1 this year. So I've got them making the playoff along with Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State out of the Big Ten.
The only thing that can hold this back is I can confirm Cousin Mush does have a big bet on the Iowa Hawkeyes to make the playoffs. This year.
When Cousin Mush gets involved, we better alert the people over at Iowa because they could be in trouble. Kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. Colorado coming in with a lot of flash. Dion trying to build the program there.
Warren Sapp on the staff now.
Yeah, just big name after big name, but. I like what they did, building with their offensive line. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders back year 2. Travis Hunter, electric player there. He's healthy. Schedule's going to be tougher. They put a target on their own back. What do you make of Colorado and their chances this year?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be a year similar to last year. I do not see them making a bowl game. I'm a line of scrimmage guy, and they really are not the offensive line. I know they brought in 5 new guys, but that's like throwing out your poker hand and getting 5 different cards.
It's true.
What's the odds that that's going to work for you? The defensive line has some players coming in, but there's just too much transition, and too many of these guys are coming in after spring practice is over, which generally, I mean, what kind of cohesion do they have as a team? Now I like the stars. Shedeur Sanders, outstanding. Travis Hunter, worth the watch. LaShonte Wester coming in, great. But if you can't win games at the line of scrimmage and with their schedule, I rate it the 13th toughest schedule in the country. I'm calling for them to miss a bowl game this year.
Phil, I'm curious. College football has changed so much. I remember getting your catalog back when it was a newspaper. But how much stock do you put in now that a coach can switch over, to another school and bring a bunch of its roster, and is there a first year coach that maybe you've circled as that's doing that? Did Kalen DeBauer bring in a bunch from Washington that you're, saying, oh, they're going to fit the system faster because they were in the coach's previous, system, coming over essentially. So is there one that you circle, and how do you even forecast that?
Yeah, I think you go back and look at last year with Texas State, G.J. Kinney, and he brought in a ton of guys from Incarnate Word. And, here's the thing, guys. I go over these rosters with every coach. I talk to 124 of the 134 head coaches. And the thing I've learned going through player by player of every roster, I know the FCS transfers, right? And the FCS transfers actually come in and play very well. They've got a couple things going for them. They step in and they get the advanced weight room and training table, so they actually get bigger and stronger. They've got the experience from the FCS, and they're also thankful for being there. They're just happy to be there. So you've got a great attitude, a kid that's bigger and stronger, and they've got the experience level, and they produce. And look at Texas State last year, a team that was picked at the bottom of the Sun Belt Conference, finished 8-5. The team I would circle this year would be Indiana. And when you look at Indiana, Cignetti brought in practically his whole defense from JMU. And it's almost every player you go over is from James Madison. And James Madison had a hell of a defense last year. These guys all are benefiting from the better weight room, the better strength conditioning. They've got Curtis Rourke, a quarterback who comes in from Miami of Ohio, and he's the guy that was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year 2 years ago. He's just banged up last year. So all these JMU transfers coming in know the system. They are helping all the players that remain there. Indiana was picked 17th out of 18 teams in the Big Ten. I'm almost thinking it was a tie for 18, but I think Indiana is a team that's going to surprise a lot of folks this year. And Cignetti's never had a losing season.
He made that known at Big Ten Media Days. I love his attitude towards not only Big Ten Media Days, but at halftime of a basketball game.
His intro was exactly how I want my coach to announce himself to the university.
Yeah, I
and last year I had questions about the quarterback, and I go, hey, coach, I don't know about the quarterback. He's like, Phil, I've had the conference player of the year at quarterback 4 straight years. I don't care who's going to be there. They'll be conference player of the year. I'm like, okay, coach. And then boom, at the end of the year, his quarterback was conference player of the year. So now I'm listening. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's almost recruiting Phil.
Always a fan of Rourke's brother as well. So.
Phil, I got the guide cracked open right here. I mean, we use it all the time. I know Colby does 134 team previews. He starts his research with the Phil Steele guide. You can get it at philsteele.com. Where else can people find the magazine? What do you got in there? What's going on with the guide this year?
Yeah, I appreciate that. The magazine is 352 pages. It's like getting 134 media guides rolled into one, except it's a lot better because all the information's on the same spot on every page for every team. And I give you the same coverage on a team like Troy or Akron that I give you on Alabama or USC, and 2 full pages. So it's really something you'll be using all season long. Now, you can only get it at Barnes & Noble or Books A Million. Those are the only 2 brick and mortar stores, so don't go driving around looking for it. Barnes & Noble or Books A Million, or you can go online to philsteele.com. And when you go to philsteele.com, I'm going to charge you a shipping charge. I mean, it costs to ship things, but we give you the digital magazine for free, and the digital magazine's actually updated all the way through the start of September. So Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, philsteele.com, and I'm putting up a different blog every day on philsteele.com. A lot of good information in there. Make sure you check it out. It's steele.com.
And as a son of a graphic designer and someone who did layout for magazines, I really, really do appreciate the predictable location of the it's one of those things where if I see another magazine, I'm like, get that out of here. I already got my eyes trained to where the information is.
My brain knows where to look, and it's great if you're a fan. It's great if you're looking for gambling information.
Great piece for the bar in our office. You know, visitors come in. It's like, oh, let me flip through the Phil Steele mag.
Yeah, you just, and it is it's awesome. And I know you dominate college football, obviously very well known for college football, but if you go to philsteele.com, there's a ton of great NFL stuff as well. I mean, a lot of the NFL turnovers equal turnaround, the turnover margin, which we use that when we do our 32 NFL team previews. Turnover margin, oftentimes an indicator of things breaking right or wrong for the team in the upcoming season. And we got that from Phil Steele. Yards per play factor, yards per point.
It's literally everything.
Yeah, it's a ton of great data. He goes deep, and you're really lost without it. So make sure you go to philsteele.com or Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. Get the physical and the digital. It's great to have something you can hold in your hand, and then you get the updated digital as well. Phil, always appreciate the time. Make sure you follow Phil on X at Phil Steele. That's STEELE042. Phil, appreciate the time.
Hey, it was a lot of fun as always. We've been doing this for a few years now, haven't we, guys?
Absolutely.
Always look forward to it. And
Phil remembers the 2. This is the Virginia Tech ECU.
I was about to say it's got to be ECU. That's.
He's like, I know these guys are going to ask about those 2 programs.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun doing it with you. It's a lot, and one quick question for you. I think the magazine is quicker than the internet as far as the lookup goes, because you know where the information is, and you could, as you mentioned, you can close your eyes and point to where it is. You go to the internet, every website is set up differently, so it's actually quicker and easier in the internet.
Yeah, you're talking to some analog guys. We like the paper tickets, we like the paper magazine. So yeah, couldn't agree more.
100%.
All right.
Get that magazine,
fun, guys.
All right, thanks, Phil. Appreciate it. Always enjoy chopping it up with Phil Steele, and week 0 is upon us. Colby, I'm looking over on Underdog Fantasy to pick them right now. Florida State at Georgia Tech in Ireland, 9 a.m. West Coast kick. Big Cinco, 1.5 passing touchdowns. Are you going higher or lower for Big Cinco over on Underdog Fantasy?
I'll take the higher just because Georgia Tech's defense was horrible last season. Now they are preaching that it's going to be different this year, brought in someone else. So I still, they got to show it to me. They were a really bad defense. So give me the higher 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Big Cinco higher 1.5 passing touchdowns. Just one of the many underdog fantasy pick 'em. I don't trust Big Cinco. I invented the nickname Big Stinko, but maybe against Georgia Tech, I would probably lean towards the lower. But 1.5 is a fairly low number for a team like Florida State. Just go to underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code SGPN up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And we're also brought to you by our good buddies at Circa, counting down the days till we're out there for the ultimate contest weekend. We're going to be there Thursday through Saturday. Come out, say what's up. Open bar events, 16 million in guaranteed prizes. Of course, sign up for the contest. Not only do you get a chance to win millions of dollars, but when you use our proxy, you get a free hat from us and $50 off. Just go to proxy.footballcontest.com. Hit us up to get your free hat. Enter Nevada, play from anywhere, and get all the details over at circusports.com. All right, always good chopping it up with Phil Steele. Got a little underdog fantasy in there. Ryan, I mean, you know, it's really awesome getting these brackets, actually getting to fill out a bracket. Yep. I feel like college football fans, Colby, what is going on? I feel like college football fans should be more excited about the playoff. I feel like there's not enough buzz about filling out playoff brackets and bracketology. Who is the college football bracketology guy? Why is it not you?
It is me. They just don't know it.
Okay.
But no, I mean, look, this is something. I think the same thing happened with college basketball, where once you did that transition, it took time and experiencing the actual thing. So I almost feel like your average American isn't even fully aware of what is upon us. I think this season, like I said, you start doing the exercises previewing these teams that we're doing or conferences, and you're just like, holy shit, there's about 65, 70 teams that like every game is huge, well,
especially at the games at the end. And especially, I guess as, someone who watches college football for gambling and doesn't really,
TMZ fan.
Yeah. I root for, I do a bit of snorkeling, but I root for Penn State, Syracuse, and Air Force, aim high, big Air Force fan.
San Diego State.
I have my collection of teams, but like my Saturday is not ruined if any of those teams lose. But I would say it's going to create some awesome games, especially at the end, because normally if you're a good team and you get 2 losses for the most part, unless you're Alabama and you got Nick Saban stumping on national TV to make a case for you in the playoffs, your season's kind of cooked. It's like, hey, you'll get to a bowl game or whatever, but national championship completely out the window. Now, if you're a 2-loss team, even a 3-loss team towards the end of the season, you got a shot to hang in the playoffs. And these small teams that were undefeated going into the end, like they got a shot. It's really crazy.
And even the reverse side of that, man, like when you give more teams the opportunity to get in, that gives more teams, that are their rivals or just teams that aren't having a good season, the opportunity to screw over their good season and develop a rivalry. It's just, it's been mind-boggling that they couldn't get to this a long time ago, and the fact that they've gotten to this, and I still think it's short, right? There should be more teams in this thing.
No, they'll figure that out.
Yeah,
they'll figure that out pretty quickly.
And walk people through. Obviously, you have the 4 Power 4 conference winners get in automatically, and
they get a bye,
and they get a bye, and they get a home game.
Yeah, and great.
Or no,
they don't get a home game
because that's the weird thing.
That's what's hilarious.
They get the bye, but not the home.
They're
game.
gonna correct that. I would put heavy money on that, but
yeah. So good point for us to stop.
Yes.
We should pick our Power 4 conference winners and top 4 seeds right now.
Let's do it. SEC, Ryan, who do you got?
I really wanted to pick someone not Georgia.
Yeah.
But I ended up picking Georgia for this exercise.
Yeah, I also went with Georgia. Do I think Auburn is a fun long shot at 55-1? Sure. Even Texas A&M, sure, at 20 whatever to 1. I think Texas A&M, spoiler alert, maybe has a shot to make the playoffs. But if we're just picking a team to win the SEC, how can you not take Georgia?
They've lost how many games in the past 3 years?
Yeah, I mean they're pretty damn good, and they don't seem super dependent on a quarterback. Like, how is it not Georgia?
I'll say this though, they don't have the SEC East anymore.
True.
I think Kirby Smart's record against the SEC West, now most of the time that was Alabama, is not nearly in the shape the SEC East record is, where he's just dominated it. And then also you add in the fact that you add in Texas and Oklahoma. there is more meat on the bone. When I look at the schedule, I go, wow, okay, Clemson and Georgia have played in a lot of close ones recently. Then you're like, hey, they have to go at Alabama, they have to go at Texas, at Ole Miss, and they still host Tennessee and play a neutral against Florida. So like that is a much harder schedule than anything they've faced in a very long time.
Fair point, but also they're very loaded.
I took Georgia too.
They're
I took Georgia
loaded.
too, just because I like the way that they get Texas the week after the Red River Shootout. I love that spot. They get a bye week before the Bama game. They get a bye week before the biggest cocktail party. So
they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine too. I'm still taking Georgia to get it done.
Because in my mind, like this is a 1-loss SEC champ, probably a 1 seed.
Big Ten. It's gross, but it still is Ohio State, right? I mean, how is it not Ohio State? I like Penn State. I think they got a shot to get in the full playoff, but odds are it's still probably going to be Ohio State winning the Big Ten, Michigan losing a ton. I don't know. Colby, are you going chalk here as well? Big Ten.
Well, I actually have Oregon beating Ohio State in the regular season in Autzen, and they're going to play each other again in Indianapolis on
the turf.
Yeah, and that's where Ohio State will get them.
Yeah, their passing game.
But I'll tell you this, man. They're still like I'm pretty sold that Ohio State is like one of the 3 best teams in the country. It's just I need to see the quarterback play though. They have a bigger question mark to me than Oregon and Georgia. Like they have a bigger unknown than Oregon and Georgia to me. But I think the revenge match. So Oregon beats them in Autzen on like October 12th, and then they get them in Indianapolis to win the Big Ten and get the auto bid.
Kramer.
Yeah, it's Ohio State. I mean, I was digging around, pulling up the price on Ohio State because gave it out when we talked about the Big Ten. Yes. It does seem like there's not a ton of friction for Ohio State in the conference this year.
Well, they pulled the Michigan with the non-con.
But also just
I mean they're plus 155 to win the Big Ten. It's crazy.
Didn't seem silly. I got with the Big Ten and the SEC especially. You don't have to get overly cute with the winner because you're going to get multiple teams in.
Yeah, but the SEC is like a bigger mystery to me. Like there's more potential for Georgia to slip, and then I think there's more teams that can be a threat to win the conference than in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean maybe. I guess Georgia's been pretty good for a while. I hear you though.
This is where it gets interesting. ACC, Ryan, you've been on your stump speech for the Virginia Tech Hokies.
Oh no, did I do it?
No, this must be you're not actually, you're going to take them. Are you worried you're jinxing them a little bit? When Vanderbilt shocks the world and takes down the Hokies.
I'll have to eat it, I guess. But right now things feel very optimistic. The swagger of this team, the quiet confidence, the coach kind of is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. The recruiting news is trickling in as the season rolls in, as if you don't need anything else positive going on. It just seems like whatever vibes mean to college football, we're back. Kyron Drones is going to make me rich, winning a Heisman. This team's winning the fucking ACC.
I'm going Syracuse. I understand they're a long shot. I understand Phil Steele tried to talk me off the ledge, but damn it, I love that schedule. And yeah, could I hedge out if they get to the ACC championship? Sure, but I can't push all these chips in on Syracuse and then not take them when we do the playoff bracket. And I think the ACC is fairly wide open. Maybe I'm completely crazy. But I'm not as high on the market as Clemson. Not as high on Miami. I do like Louisville over 8.5. That is one of my favorite win total plays. But I will say, come on, you gotta have a little spice here in a playoff prediction. Colby, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm taking that Louisville team you just talked about. What I like about it is their toughest games are non-con games. Really, I mean, yes, you have at Clemson on November 2nd, which. Okay, they can lose that game. A 1-loss team, like everyone in the ACC is going to lose a game. All right, and then to me,
very confident about that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very good that and I actually think the best teams on paper in conference, like Miami, Florida State, and Clemson, have harder schedules than the 5 teams behind them. So I think there's a shot none of them play for the ACC championship. So the Louisville, okay, you lose at Clemson. If you just take care of business against Miami at home, where I don't know, Jeff Brom is just historically very good against ranked teams when they come to his house. The rest of the schedule in the ACC: home to Georgia Tech, home to SMU, at Virginia, at Boston College, at Stanford, home to Pitt. This is very, very winnable. You get to the ACC championship game. Last year you had to play Florida State, but guess what? They added 3 schools, and let me tell you, no one's as good as Florida State was last year. I don't even think they're going to get one of the blue bloods. I think they're going to get something like Virginia Tech, something like NC State, something like maybe Syracuse, Sean. North Carolina, one of those teams.
Virginia Tech has as many conference championships as anyone over the last couple decades.
I'm just saying they're not known historically.
That's just hilarious. Hey, over the last couple decades, we've won.
Well, they joined a couple decades ago. That's why I bring it up like that. I'm just saying you can't. They have their. You can call them ACC blue bloods.
Louisville plus 450 now to make the college football playoff, Colby. So
now the big thing is and this is something I think we're going to say for a couple of these things is quarterback health. Tyler Shuck's a very good quarterback when he plays, but he's been injured a lot, so they're going to have to protect him to accomplish this. But there's not a lot of meat on the bone with the conference schedule, and I feel like that's what you should be circling. Because look, if they lose to Notre Dame and Kentucky, right?
No, my big takeaway on all these is these teams like Louisville, like a Syracuse, that play soft conference schedules that have a decent path into the championship. You should be sprinkling them to win. I mean, Louisville to win the ACC. How could you not have a little action on that? I mean, that they're only 6-1, which is crazy. But
can the ACC get 2 teams in?
I don't think it's going to happen, but they could. They need like Miami, Florida State, or Clemson to actually do that. 11-1, and then get upset in the championship game.
If the championship game is between 2 11-1 teams, do they both make it into the playoff?
Well, if it's Florida State, certainly, because they're going to want to correct their wrong from a year ago.
If it's Virginia Tech and Syracuse, Virginia Tech and Louisville,
I think they should.
Sorry, Louisville.
But that's why they're going to expand. I mean, I personally say yes. If you're 11-1, you need to be fucking in.
Might need to amend mine. Yeah. Well, you'd be 11-2 after you lose the.
Still, you have 11 wins.
I might need to amend my my playoff here.
Brian, Georgia fan, go Dogs, in the chat saying ACC champ gets what seed? Colby, if you had to guess, what seed do you think? If Louisville ends up winning the ACC, where do you think they seed them?
I think they'll put them at. I think they're going to put them at the 3 seed because there's always been a bias against the West Coast.
Yeah,
and the Big 12 is more West Coast than the ACC. Just not only does it have the cachet, the history. Obviously with Florida State and Clemson have recently won national championships in the past decade, but also they got Poland basketball. So the Big 12, there's a reason. Like I think the Big 12 is a tougher conference this year than the ACC, but they call it the truck stop conference for a reason. It's a pun, it's a joke. It's the Big 12 is always changing the teams in it. So I think the Big 12 will get the 4 seed.
Also worth noting that the difficulty could also lead to having more teams with like 3 losses. More congested in the middle.
Yeah.
Big 12. Colby, I'll let you start. Going chalky here.
This is very similar to the Louisville play because Cam Rising gets injured doing everything. So true. I do believe so. I have,
and Utah, we talk about it all the time. I mean, I went under on their win total because I thought they were going to be 9-3, somewhere around there. I mean, it's hard to completely fade them because it's such a tough place to play. But again, if Cam Rising gets a little banged up, you could see this getting pretty sideways. But Colby, you were high on them when we did the Big 12 Big 12 episode. You had them over 9.5 and even a small sprinkle on them to win it all. Make your case here for Utah.
Well, I mean, the hardest place to play probably, or one of the hardest places to play in all of the country. And then I think they have the best coach, and I think he's the best coach. I think he will have the most physical offensive and defensive line in this conference. And as long as Cam Rising stays healthy, and that's been a recent trend too in college football. If you look at like the past 5 national champions, whether it's Joe Burrow, whether it's Stetson Bennett, whether it's I guess McCarthy would be the only one that wasn't, but Michael Penix and Bo Nix, who had great years last season, super experienced quarterbacks. Even the kid from TCU is experienced. He was a senior. So my point is that they have that, and Cam Rising is like the oldest player in college football. You have that with the most physical offensive defensive line, always great special teams, and a great home environment. I think that's all the difference. And I have them losing to UCF on November 30th. That game is actually going to get UCF into the Big 12 championship, but they're going to have to play Utah again in Arlington, and that's where Whittingham catches UCF, and they go to the playoffs. 2 straight weeks of playing them. I'll side with Kyle Whittingham over Gus Malzahn.
That's fair.
Kramer, you and I drinking that same.
We disagree.
Do we?
No, with Colby.
Oh, we disagree with Colby. We are on the same page here. Central Florida. You can get a nice price here for UCF. Kramer, you've been all over this from day one. I think you kind of converted me.
But do you have them playing Utah? Because that would be 2 straight weeks of beating Utah.
Yes.
All right.
Maybe. I don't know the scenarios it would take to. I guess probably.
I think again. I got Utah 9-3, 8-4 on the under. They might not have to beat them. Well, I guess obviously they'd have to beat them in the championship. They might not have to beat them twice in a row, depending on how close it is. But I'll take UCF at 9-1. Kramer, make a case for why we like Central Florida here.
Oh, we're simply just high on KJ Jefferson.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure I firmly plant the flag of he'll be in the Heisman discussion, and I do think I've gotten higher on Utah since we recorded the college football previews. It does seem like
Phil Steele getting in your head.
It seems like the floor is pretty high for this team. And
Yeah.
So
No, I mean it's like
seems unlikely they'll not be in the mix for the
what
Big
is
12
what
this
is
year.
the floor of Utah? I mean, you look at their seasons without Cam Rising. It's not like they were a complete disaster. Like, what is their absolute floor?
I just mentioned
Colby?
it on
like five losses, 4 losses.
Yeah, like to me, I just mentioned it on the Phil Steele thing when they had that pig farmer as a quarterback that was like a walk on. They just ran quarterback power like 40 fucking times, and they are all these Pacific Islanders on the offensive line and defensive line that just. I honestly don't know that any team in the Big 12 will be able to match up with them and be the more physical team. You know, like even Kansas State, which I think is a physical football team, I don't think it's Utah physical. So I think that'll be their advantage, whether they even have to go to the 2nd string or 3rd string quarterback.
I like. The pig farmer.
Group of 5. Now this is where you can really talk yourself into some long shots, and we'll have to see, Ryan, when we're out there in at Circa this weekend to see what their pricing is, and maybe I'll pull up the app here on some of these group of 5 teams to make the playoff. Like I feel like this is where you can find some juicy long shots. Colby, how do you think they're going to break down the group of 5 and award? Like, does a certain conference have an edge in your mind? Do certain types of teams, like, what is the committee going to use to pick a group of 5 winner?
Well, I think most of the committee is on the East Coast. So, I mean, let's be honest. The Mountain West is the best conference. And I would say this as an ECU fan. I would love to say the AAC is the best group of 5 conference, but it's not. It's gotten all of its teams, SMU, UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, all left. So it's just not. And then you add in the Mountain West, their recent like tie-in schedule to Washington State and Oregon State gives them another extra game. But I don't know that the pollsters, the voters or the committee, I don't know how much they really fucking look at that. You know what I mean? Like, are they going to stay up late watching an Air Force game on a Friday night? No. So the AAC makes more money, so they'll probably look at that first. And that's why I think the AAC will have a little bit of a leg up on the Mountain West, even though I don't think it should. I think the Mountain West should come first before any of these conferences. I think there's a pretty decent sized gap to me too.
Well, what do you think? What has to happen for a Mountain West team to get in? Someone has to not get beat up and just run the table.
Well, Boise. Well, Boise plays at Oregon week 2, so they're definitely going to have a blemish. But yeah, 10-2 Boise. Would they get in over a 9-3 AAC? I don't know that they would. I think that would be very interesting. It depends the team. If it's 9-3, Memphis.
Colby, I wanted to go Colorado State and represent the Mountain West, but you're talking me out of. You don't think a Mountain West team has a shot to make the playoffs?
No, I do, because at some point,
what is Colorado State? Do they have to be?
I think they have a shot. I think they have a shot. Like, to me,
I feel like if they win the Mountain West, they're going to be in it.
I'd say there's about 13, 14 teams that have a legit shot of getting there, and like 4 or 5 are in the Mountain West. So
it's just, if I like Colorado State to win the Mountain West at 15-1. Why?
And Colorado State will have an opportunity. They play Texas week 1. They're 36-point dogs, right? Or 35.5-point dogs. But if they fare well there, you can lose.
Hang around.
That's what I'm saying. If you lose close, that's going to help you a lot. Some of these teams like Liberty, they don't have that luxury. They don't play at Texas. They play App State and ECU as their hardest games, and Jacksonville State. So
Trojan Fight in the chat saying they need to revisit the group of 5 teams getting an auto bid. Example, a team like Liberty doesn't play a Power 4 team. Do you think they're going to factor in?
That's not because Liberty didn't want to, dude. Yeah. And Liberty tried to. No one wanted to play Liberty. Boise's athletic director has been talking about this for years. It's very hard for them to find an opponent. So I disagree with his assessment on that, because
all right, I'll stand strong with Colorado State for my group of 5 prediction. Colby, make the case for your East Carolina Pirates.
So, but by the odds, if you look at the group of 5 teams, it would be Liberty and then Boise State and Memphis.
Yeah,
are basically your.
Well, my theory is
dogs.
If Colorado State upsets Boise State and
wins
beat
them
last
Mountain
year. West, wins the Mountain West, then come on, we got to take a couple shots here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Colorado State, Wyoming, Fresno all make sense too, but no, ECU. What I love about
Hawaii.
Imagine
Hawaii makes the
their
playoff.
travel's insane though. But
that'd be something.
I mean, June Jones would have had him there. ECU though, what I love about ECU's schedule is they don't have Tulane and Memphis there, right? Or South Florida. So like 3 of the best 4 teams coming in are not on the schedule. Guess what? The only other team that is in the top 4 is UTSA, and guess where that game's at? It's at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium in Greenville. They also get the opportunity to play Liberty and Appalachian State, so they could be directly competing with those teams, right? As far as the
that
spot.
Liberty game's huge.
Yeah. So if we just go 1-1 there, then what I love too is the fact that the AAC does just like the Mountain West. Your conference championship game is at the best record. When I look at this, it's irrelevant for App State and Liberty on the schedule. They're from other conferences. Yeah. We only play one team that's a contender this year, and that's UTSA. So we would be hosting the AAC championship game at Dowdy-Ficklin, and as Phil Steele alludes to in that interview, that's a real home field advantage. So if we had to play Memphis or Tulane, but it's at Dowdy-Ficklin, bring it on. We've beaten Memphis 2 straight times. I think we can make it 3 straight times.
Cue the music.
Let's go. Let's go.
In the Pirates.
Let's go. It's a great schedule. It's not and I do believe like it's the best defense we've had in like 20 years since Skip Holtz, but also it's a mix of that and a great schedule.
Sometimes you're also drinking the ECU Kool-Aid?
Sometimes you got to tear up the script and realize that your bracket needs additional vibes.
Oh wow!
So we're going with ECU. I'm going to listen to the college football experts that have been on this episode.
There we go.
Both Colby and Phil Steele. And
love it.
I have a new 12 seed.
All right,
and also this is a side tangential hope to get some positive Pirate vibes for the Raiders this year as Gardner Minshew takes the helm. Colby, you got to be
ECU QB. Colby, gotta love it, right?
Exactly, yeah. Colby. Come on, come back to the NFL. Be a Raiders fan this year. Gardner Minshew's gonna be awesome.
Cut the roof off.
I hear
they might kill some people.
I heard they
play.
Well, don't worry. Raiders fans will kill some people too, and they go watch the Raiders.
This is a new Raiders. This is
we'll call it a wash.
I as much as it's fun to make fun of the Raiders fans, part of me respects like they went full regalia for a preseason game.
Yeah, they get.
Honey, get out my skull costume. I'm going to the game. Like, imagine painting your face for fucking preseason. Part of me has to
that fan base deserves better, man. They deserve.
They love
better.
it. They love it.
Yeah.
They love Allegiant Stadium. It is fun to see a game live in Las Vegas. I know.
What do you mean you didn't go to Michael's?
I told you to get the spray paint for my shoulder pads.
They had a buy one get one.
The black yarn that's the only place you can get it. All right. Did you at least get the silver skull glitter? How are my shoulder pads gonna shine? All right. How do we want to do the 12 seeds?
I have no fucking clue.
All right, Kramer, just rattle off your 12.
All right. So Georgia SEC champ 1 seed, Ohio State Big Ten champ 2 seed, my Hokies ACC champ 3 seed, UCF 4 seed out of the Big 12, 5 seed wild card out of the SEC Texas A&M, 6 seed Oregon. Again, I think those are probably the 2 losers of the conference championship game. Then the 7 seed LSU. 8 seed Iowa. I thought hard about this. I kind of don't think they're ever going to give Iowa a home game, but this would be fucking amazing. 9 seed Tennessee.
They're gonna have to if they're 11-1.
9 seed Tennessee. Yes, they got left, or we did leave Notre Dame off the list here. 10 seed. More vibes. Syracuse gets in.
Oh yes.
After they lose to the Hokies in the ACC championship, 11-2 season. Nice work, Cuse. Utah sneaks in as the 11 seed. Just too good of a team for the committee to leave out, even over a team like Ole Miss. And then East Carolina, the 12 seed. Sean.
All right. So for me, the Dogs coming in at number 1, chalky Ohio State 2, Syracuse shocking the world, winning the ACC, getting the number 3 seed.
Wow.
I was going to say the Carrier Dome's going to be rocking, but they're going to have a bye. And then UCF at number 4, LSU. How have we not talked about LSU yet? I don't think they win the SEC, but I do think they're going to make a good case to get in. My Nittany Lions at number 6. Their odds to get the playoffs are like almost even money. Notre Dame, because they have Joe Thiesen's going to be pounding the committee's door to make sure his Golden Domers get in there. Number 8, Iowa. I'm with you guys. 10-2, 11-1. This Iowa team, they don't want to put them in, but they're going to be in, and they're going to have a home playoff game, and it's going to be electric. Number 9 seed is Phil Steele's roulette chip themselves. UNC. I did have Oklahoma State in here at 10, but
Iowa would fuck up North Carolina too. Can you imagine that?
That's awesome. Like styles make fights type of situation. You guys did talk me into putting Utah into the playoff, kind of hedging my bet there in UCF. Number 11 seed Texas A&M, who I think has a shot to win the SEC, and maybe I didn't do a great job rating them here. 11, but they're my 3rd SEC team, so I felt like I had to put them down a little bit. And then Colorado State just ram it. Fort Collins gets in. Colby?
Yeah. So my bye week teams are Utah. Well, the 1 seed Georgia, 2 seed Ohio State, 3 seed Louisville, 4 seed Utah. The first round matchups: East Carolina goes to College Station, much like you said. Tennessee at Iowa. This is a rematch of a bowl game that was played at a neutral, but it's a lot different in cold ass Kinnick. LSU at Oregon.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Michigan at Notre Dame, and the winner plays Ohio State.
This is just why this. I'm angry that we didn't have this for years.
Dude, I've been saying. I mean, come on.
I'm angry.
Think about these environments.
Why are you getting them riled
Think
up?
about these environments.
I had a moment where I'm like Colby, where it's like, why do we these just you walking through the actual matchups? It's like
these idiots.
Fucking A. These are going to be awesome games.
So,
and I'm just thinking of all the years of awesome games. Instead, we get these like jack off bowl games that don't mean diddly squat.
Yep.
And the home environments too.
Yes.
Like we're gonna still get these bowl games next, which is unfortunate. They should make all these home games.
They'll get better as it grows. There'll be more home games because they'll realize
it should be all home games, and then the final 4 are the 4 best stadiums.
I agree. And think about
just
these
play
environments.
the fucking national championship in the Rose Bowl every year.
I agree.
I can walk to the game.
You're really giving Colby what he wants.
Think about
Colby. Have you ever thought of these ideas?
Think about these fucking locations, guys. A&M hosting a game, Iowa hosting a game, Oregon hosting a game, Notre Dame hosting a game. It's gonna be gigantic for the sport.
Yeah,
just don't mess this up. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
what they're also going to realize, like all the schools are going to be like, no, I want the home game. Like, let's make sure everyone, even if you're getting a bye, you need to get a home game.
How much money is Iowa City going to make if they're hosting a playoff
That's what I'm
game?
saying. Like these politicians have to realize the bowl should have zero power. Why they have any power? Like no one actually wants to go to the bowl games. The bowl games force the school to buy tickets. Like no one actually wants the bowl games to exist except for the bowl games.
The most marketable, the most marketing thing. What's the pluses of college football or college
break
basketball?
It down, right?
Home environments.
Yeah, we're gonna say that we're gonna get all these fan bases to go to this warm area to go watch a game in a sanitized. This is where I do agree with you, in a sanitized environment. It will. Hopefully they figure it out. Hopefully they realize there's more money to be generated at the home site. So first round. Friday.
Oh, real quick, we should just talk about the fact that, as Brian's pointing out in the chat, did anyone mention Bama at all?
All right, so I had Bama almost was where Cuse was,
or Michigan, the reigning national champs. Yeah.
So
everyone left off Michigan.
I had Michigan in, and my thing was this: I went to go.
Oh, sorry, you did have Michigan in.
I went to go put. I went to put in. Penn State, but I had Penn State as the same record as USC, and USC won the head-to-head. So then I went to go put USC in, and then I realized they lost same record as Michigan, but they lost the head-to-head to Michigan, and Michigan won the championship last year. Michigan draws a huge number. The committee's gonna put Michigan in.
Maybe. I would say with Bama, almost had them replace Syracuse as the 10 seed, where they would have opened against LSU at LSU.
Well, no, I had Bama and LSU with a similar record, but LSU won.
Yeah, no, I think again, ever since I heard I'm blanking on his last name from the College Football Inquirer, our buddy Ross Dillinger talk about all the new furniture that DeBauer was shipping into the worrying about all this construction. I do feel like a slight step back is plus it's I know they're Alabama, but they did lose more than they're typically losing in a season.
Well, and some of these teams they're gonna have the same record as the teams that are in.
Yeah.
So it's you have to look and say, well, Alabama lost at LSU.
I would say where my bracket is almost certainly going to be wrong is that the Big 12, the idea of the Big 12 and the ACC get two teams, probably a little bit edge case.
I only had them getting one each.
Can you share the screen with the brackets?
Maybe.
So we could that'll be fun if we could walk through. Of course, you're in Patreon, you got the sheets and you get the Patreon pick'em. Last week's was Weehawk. That Weehawk has been dominating the Patreon pick'em. Yes, he won $100 circuit ticket. He's won some merch gift cards. This week, $100 merch gift card up for grabs in the pick'em. Oh, look at this beautiful thing. I mean, this is now we're talking. Now we're talking here. I mean, look at this. This is real college football. So Kramer, walk people through your first round of your bracket.
Yeah. So we got ECU losing to Texas A&M down. There'll be lots of parades down there. Tennessee then takes on Iowa at Iowa. There's no chance Tennessee wins in Iowa. That'll be a cold ass game. So Iowa advances. Utah, Oregon, an old Pac-12 matchup revived. Utah experience playing up there in Autzen. Gets it done on the road. Syracuse, LSU, Cuse with an upset.
Wow.
Where we have a little drama. The old Kyle McCord back.
Oh, that would be great.
To take on his old squad.
That's diabolical what you did there, right?
I know. I may have had something to do with that. And so then again, the quarterfinals will be the Fiesta Peach, Rose Bowl, and Sugar Bowl. I do think Texas A&M upsets UCF, if you want to call that an upset.
Well, that's another angle of this. Let's talk about this for a second. First off, there's the whole NFL, like the team that gets the bye week normally, a lot of times can get upset because the other team gets on a run. But
I think I don't know if that's the biggest thing here.
But have you mentioned Ross Dillinger? He was talking about the 5 seed might have an easier path than the 2 or 3 or 4 because you get the group of 5.
Yeah.
Then you get the 4 which the Big 12 team might have like 3 losses.
Weakest of the conference.
Yeah, so
winners.
you might want the strategy on this is you might want the 5 seed over the 2 seed because the 2 seed's gonna get like Ohio State's gonna get in your scenario it's Syracuse, but in mine it's Michigan. So that's a big fucking deal. That's a big difference.
And I think just the idea that the you're right, the 5 seed.
That's why they're going to have to go to 16
rest
and give
versus
and give the 16 to the 1.
Figure
and then
that
it makes more sense.
Figure it out. All right, Iowa, Georgia, and again these are the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day games. Iowa, Georgia, Georgia. Unfortunately, Georgia advances.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech, Utah. Come on, this dream doesn't end yet. Ohio State takes down Syracuse. Unfortunately.
Oh, come on.
And A&M, Georgia takes care of business.
What I like about yours is, the committee has said that they're going to avoid the rematch. They're going to try to avoid,
though.
But I think you did because A&M and Georgia didn't play in the regular
round.
Season. No, in all of it.
Nice. And then, I mean, we've seen the Hokies and Ohio State play before. Not scared at all. Virginia Tech versus Georgia. Georgia wins the national championship.
It's in Atlanta too. You should hit that. And
I
how
have
about how
right
many
here.
weekday games? You didn't talk about the fact that these.
So
games,
again, these games: first round Friday, Saturday; second round Tuesday, Wednesday; the semifinal Thursday, Friday. I mean, this is like leading up to an NFL playoff weekend, I believe. Yeah. And this is obviously not correct, but it's a couple weeks after that. Again, they were at least somewhat aware, unlike some of these leagues we cover that don't seem aware of when the NFL is playing. College, very aware. So I think I just had. You know what? Actually, late breaking news: Virginia Tech wins the national championship. If this happens in real life, I'm going to be rich.
All
right, Sean, you're up.
Okay, so Colorado State, LSU. I got LSU winning that one. UNC, Iowa. I mean, Iowa at home against UNC.
Wait, hold on.
It's a dream scenario.
You know how hilarious it would be if Colorado. I say this as a Colorado fan. If Colorado State makes the playoffs before Colorado.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine what would happen in that state?
No.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't.
And I like Colorado, but Colorado State better path in my mind.
Fort Collins also better city.
Texas A&M, Penn State, Nittany Lions get it done. Utah, Notre Dame. Utah shocks the world, gets a road win in Notre Dame there. Utah, Ohio State. Utah shocks Ohio State, knocks them out.
I can see it. I can see that.
Penn State, Syracuse. Penn State moves on. Iowa, Georgia. Georgia, of course, moves on. LSU, UCF. LSU moves on. So we get LSU, Georgia, which is, I mean, just a TV wet dream. LSU
avoid it. They don't play in the regular season either.
Yes,
so you got that. They might be the SEC championship, but
LSU gets the win over Georgia. Penn State, Utah. Utah moves on, and LSU beats Utah and is crowned the national champ. So they don't win the SEC, but they do come out of nowhere and win the SEC championship.
And shout out to Chris Brady in the chat, pointing out that he won a college future last year on a conference because the team was excluded due to state betting rules.
Oh, that's
the actual
awesome.
winner. So,
wait.
So
well, I guess I wonder what team he'd be talking about. But like, for example, you can't wager on Rutgers in New Jersey.
Yeah, but then how did he wager on it then?
Maybe it was that. No. Meaning that like Rutgers isn't in the pool. Like, so in theory, if Rutgers were to win the Big Ten, they're not in the pool for the Big Ten in New Jersey.
Oh, that's right.
So you would get the runner up. So you'd get whoever they beat in the championship game, which is real messed up stuff. All right, Colby,
walk us through. What do you got?
ECU, A&M. Look, if ECU got to the playoff, it'd be just phenomenal. I would be in College Station. My face would be painted purple. Oh,
they would love that there. You could be part of the parade.
I'll wear overalls so it confuses them.
ECU wants to bring some floats to the parade.
But then I got A&M winning that. Mike Elko, I think, is just he's just such a damn good coach. And then Tennessee, Iowa, like I said, Kinnick Stadium. If this is in Neyland, I would take Tennessee. but if it's in Kinnick,
you can't win that
taking
game.
Iowa 1,000 out of 1,000 times. LSU Oregon. This is a fascinating game because I do think this would be to me just a wild game where I got the Ducks winning in a close one.
Ooh,
and
quack,
then
quack, quack.
Michigan Notre Dame. Are you kidding me? At the Golden Dome there, the only good dome ever.
Too many games. Now the regular season won't matter at all.
What about their studies? Don't anyone think of their studies?
Remember
these
that
kids they're preparing to cheat extensively on their exams for these jobs that they don't ever have to.
Colby, remember the argument of now the regular season won't matter?
Yeah,
these dumb motherfuckers.
Have they listened to my 134 previews? Because the regular season matters so much fucking more now. So I got Michigan edging out Notre Dame. I think Michigan's defense could really present problems. I don't think Notre Dame would be able to move the ball much. I know Michigan's offense got a lot of question marks too, but I think their defense is just a little bit better than Notre Dame. So I like Michigan's chances to break a big play better than Notre Dame's. Then that would set up a rematch for Michigan Ohio State. So my bracket does have a rematch, right? A regular season rematch.
Can you imagine if Michigan Ohio State played in the playoff?
Oh my gosh, man! But the problem is though, where would this be again? This would be in.
It would be at
Arizona?
the Fiesta, Peach, Rose.
No, this would be in New Orleans. Sure, those guys wouldn't like to go get drunk in New Orleans, but I got Ohio State beating Michigan there again. I got to see Michigan. See, to me, in a dome, you have to take Ohio State against Michigan.
Yeah.
Then
you got all the big schools. Look at you.
No, I got Louisville in there, buddy. All right. Oregon is taking on Louisville at the Rose Bowl, and I hesitated. I thought this was one of my harder ones to do here because Braum is so good in to me just big spotlight games. But I think Oregon is just loaded, and Phil Knight's made it known he's paying a bunch of people to get that national championship.
So they're taking down Ohio State.
They take down Louisville. Then they take down Ohio State. And I got Oregon advancing, and then Iowa, Georgia. I'm sorry if this was. I would love to see if this is where the Peach Bowl. No, that's in Atlanta again. Georgia just plays the whole goddamn season in Atlanta, right? And so Georgia advances over Iowa. Then Utah upsets A&M, even though it wouldn't be. It's going to be A&M will be favored for that game, I bet. And then I have Utah, Georgia, which would be a sneaky game.
It would probably be in Miami.
I actually think that might be the better game, but I have Georgia advancing to the championship game, and I have the Oregon Ducks. You might remember the season, Dan Lanning's first game.
Quack.
Dan Lanning's first game at Oregon, he played Georgia, and Georgia beat the shit out of him in Atlanta.
Wow.
Oh, I remember. We had Oregon.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
that was like
he didn't have the personnel. He didn't have the personnel then. Now he's got a 7-year starting quarterback. He's got the personnel on offense and defense. They upset the Georgia Bulldogs and get their first national championship. Phil Knight's going out. He's got more 10-year-olds making Nikes. All right, and everyone's happy. The world's great. All right, I mean,
I didn't expect Colby to pick Oregon to win the national championship.
Quack.
The only fear is that
he loves their flashy uniforms.
All right.
So Oregon, LSU, and the Virginia Tech Hokies.
But let's talk about this. I think Georgia's path is harder than Oregon's.
Yeah, I mean, well,
because I think Utah.
Just looking at our champs.
I think Utah and Oregon, like those two games are tougher games.
There is going to be another level to this. I think they're certainly going to adjust things. It does feel like the teams that got the buys should also be hosting a playoff game there. I mean, yeah,
it's easily fixed if you just went to 16 and then just did 1 versus 16. 2 versus 15, 3 versus 14. It's a little easier.
No, they're gonna figure this out. Again, I know the idea of brackets are new to college sports in the NCAA. They can't wrap their head around it, but fun exercise. And yet, I mean, all
beautiful
these,
sheet available.
All these games we're projecting. Like, who is not watching? Like, every one of these games is a must-watch game, especially when you put playoff implications.
Totally ruin the regular season.
Am I locked into the Peach Bowl normally? Maybe not. But now that it's a college football playoff game, like, what are we doing? Well, you guys like money. You like ratings. Why would you not done this before? It's mind-boggling.
It's just a no-brainer. Like, the thing that sells college athletics is the environments.
Yes.
And then college football has, unlike a lot of other sports, they have these venues that are chapels, that are like it. It's like they have 100 Wrigley Fields. Subscribe to the Stadium Heads podcast. All right, and you could be
specifically said not to.
There's nothing more American.
No plugs, please.
There's
Colby.
nothing more American than college football, and this is the perfect opportunity for you to showcase this.
I do think that the ideal situation, because there are roughly 6 bowls, so you just got to go out to the point where that you have, like Colby has been saying, 24 teams, because 24 gets you a first round of buys and a second round of home games.
24
or sorry, a first round of
I would
hosting.
like 32 is my perfect, but 24
but if you get to 24,
yeah.
you have a round 1 of like playing games at home sites, and then the bye teams get a home site round, and then you go to your bowl game bullshit. So yeah,
there's a thing called the FCS that kind of kills this.
I know it's
Mike, also D2, D3, NAIA, everywhere you look.
My kids' league they figured this shit out.
But they have their studies right.
The regular season doesn't matter in these leagues. It's just they've completely thrown it out the window because they have a playoff at the end of the season.
All right, let's close it out with some Heisman predictions. Well,
I'll go first.
Okay, why don't you go, Ryan?
I've been going all summer. Same drum.
Okay.
Kyron Drones
90 to 1,
open to 1,000,000 to 1, down to 75 to 1 in some places. Shout out to DK, they got a 90 to 1. Returning production, Coach Pry, Virginia Tech. In my version of reality, they're playing in the national championship, so he will 100% be invited to the beautiful award ceremony. 90 to 1. What great CLVL have. Second one, high on UCF. High on Gus Malzahn. Had to educate some people that he was actually a coach for Auburn when Cam Newton was there. The trolls slid into the DM, tried to tell me that I was wrong about that. Was not the last time that he was coaching a large athletic quarterback that could run like KJ Jefferson can. It was Cam Newton, and they won a national championship, and Cam Newton won the Heisman. This number has also been plummeting, Sean. When we started our crusade, it was 110 to 1. It's now down to 75 to 1. And I've seen some places that have dropped KJ Jefferson to under 50 to 1. So make sure you get in while the getting's good. Those are the 2 guys. I might add a 3rd guy based on what you guys say right now.
All right. I will.
But those are the 2 guys.
I'll go real quick. KJ Jefferson co-signing that 75 to 1. Miller Moss. Colby has convinced me that this is a good play.
Yeah.
I'm
really.
seeing that.
Well, Lincoln Riley, the Heisman Trophy is basically his trophy.
Yeah, I mean,
like how many quarterbacks have been in the mix there? Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams,
Kyler Murray,
Baker Mayfield. You
yeah,
know what
no,
I mean?
like, if you just look at it like that, you get a Lincoln Riley quarterback for 40 to 1. Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know where I'm at USC as a team. We'll see what that defense does, but 40 to 1, like, and there's a version where they put up a shit ton of stats. They still haven't fixed the defense. Miller Moss has an incredible year. I'm also not super high on Duke, but you can get Malik Murphy, Texas transfer, for 1,000 to 1. The dude is an athletic freak. Now, maybe he can't. We'll see if it all translates. And obviously, I'm not even super high on Duke as a team, but at 1,000 to 1, why not? And if I think Syracuse can make the college football playoff and win the ACC, how do we not also get a little sprinkle on Kyle Honda McCord as dubbed by Colby? So 2,000 to 1. Is that correct there?
Yeah.
No.
200 to 1.
Oh, 200
to 1. But Malik Murphy is legit 1,000 to 1, which is comical.
I really like. I'm in on the McCord play just because that schedule's so great. You could totally see. You normally have to have of the past 20 years of the Heisman. I feel like you have to have a winning season.
All these journalists,
that's
former
true.
Syracuse Orange, writing some articles.
Bob Costas and his pink eye will cast him.
And didn't we?
You're gonna get Colby fired up talking about Costas.
Haven't we already? I feel like I was the only one making Olympics Costas pink eye references. Although there was a guy who follows us with the Bob Costas pink eye. That's the best.
One of my favorite Twitter.
What a great account.
Yeah.
But doesn't this kind of follow a similar path to Joe Burrow, a kid who had,
big time recruit and
was at Ohio State, transferred away to another school, want more opportunity.
Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Terrence Marshall all there.
Hey, they got a bunch of Georgia wideout trade. They have Rhonda Gatson Jr., who's going to be in the NFL.
All right,
they're calling him the next Jamar Chase.
I'll join on this one. Remind me when we get to the circuit. I need to invest.
All right, what else you like, Colby?
If I'm going off the board that I gave you, well, first, like the one that I like is Travis Hunter, but Colorado has to have a winning season there.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, Colorado. So
they hired Warren Sapp. Well, I'm so much more out on this team.
Wait, that's a good thing.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know what's the angle there. He's a GA.
He's kind of a knucklehead.
He's kind of not liked by most of the football playing community that he played with.
He's a fucking GA,
known as a shithead.
I have an opportunity to come to Colorado and a Hall of Famer can teach me a few things.
I mean, for kids who want to get drafted, I see the appeal of being around Warren Sapp. Now,
if you like strip clubs,
I would note that he was arrested for soliciting a prostitute. And so
was Lawrence Taylor.
And he was
different though.
But part of his
was Eddie Murphy.
Lawrence Taylor's cool.
Part of his punishment for soliciting the prostitute was he had to go to a sex. I don't know. Basically he had to go to a class on how not to solicit prostitutes.
Oh, how does that exist?
I really want to get, and I'm sure someone in our audience.
What the fuck are we talking about?
I'm sure someone in the audience had been legally forced to go to one of those classes. If you have the curriculum, please email it podcast@sportsgamblingpodcast.com because I want to know, like, what are they talking about? Like, hey, when you see a lady of the night, do you A, offer to have sex with her for money, or B, nothing?
Shit.
Sapp is just there like, I don't know, man. Can I look at your answers? Just the fact that they had a class. But go on, Cole.
But Travis Hunter is like, to me, the only, like, I don't know that any other team could go 7-5 and you have a Heisman candidate. Whereas I actually believe, like, if he didn't miss a month of the season last season, he was on par to be in that mix. With some of those games, he had just monster receiving numbers. And then one game he had multiple interceptions. So we haven't seen that since Charles Woodson.
Honestly, though, he can't play so many snaps. That was probably gonna always lead to him missing.
He got injured on a cheap shot, dude.
No, agreed. But I'm just saying, like, sure. But also playing that many snaps probably.
I don't. You are. They could play. Sammy Ball did that shit. Fucking Travis Hunter could do it. Nowadays you can't even tackle anybody.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Anyway, it's overblown stat there. He could play. Give him double that of what he did last season.
Well, that would be more than the game. He'd be playing extra snaps. Like, stay down here, Travis.
Miller Moss is the obvious one. USC. I'll just always take that.
Right, I'll copy that one too. That's good.
That one's a fun one.
I'm gonna add in what. And it's a log shot, but I think it's worth the. So Dylan Gabriel is notorious for that bitch ass 2024 football play where you run up and slide.
Oh wow!
And he's gotten injured in a lot of seasons. One of the sneaky good things I like about Oregon's chances, where I don't like Ohio State's, if something happens, is they went out and got Dante Moore, who was a 5-star who started at UCLA last year. He's their backup quarterback. Dante Moore is a long shot here, but if he comes into play, I think he's surrounded by such great pieces that it could be a great story of a backup quarterback coming out and leading a team to a national championship.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
What is Dante Moore's?
Sean likes a good freeing from Chip Kelly.
100-1, I believe, right?
I'd have to look at the odds, but yeah, I mean, there's kind of a shelf, and then it just becomes 100-1, and then 200-1. It's beautiful.
Well, Malik Murphy's 1,000-1. How awesome is that?
But you need Duke to win like 7 or 8 games or something because
probably impossible.
I put $10 on it.
And you need all the other bad or good quarterbacks to be bad.
Yeah, that could happen.
Football's back.
Football is back. We just dropped our 32 NFL team previews. Of course, we're giving away a $500 NFL Circa future to one lucky listener. There's a 1 word per episode. You put all 32 together, and you go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/phrase, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/phrase, enter in over there. We are also taking mail-in entries. You can get the address there, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/phrase. We will pick the winner NFL week 1. And of course, merch store, 10% off everything with the promo code football. Make sure you subscribe to the College Football Experience. Week 0 picks. We're doing our episode. Week 0 picks tomorrow. Cannot wait.
Thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
For Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, second the money green. He's Ryan.
Anyone who comes at me with any sort of negativity about my Hokies, I'm muting you immediately.
Kramer, let it ride.